Welcome back. Well, amid the recent drone strikes that was carried out by Ukraine deep into Russian territory, now Putin's foreign affairs advisor says Putin spoke to Trump of Ukrainian terror attacks on civilians. And he's now said that the Russian president informed the US President Donald Trump about Ukrainian terrorist attacks against civilians, reaffirming Putin's description of them as an attempt by Kyiv to derail talks between Russia and Ukraine delegations in the Turkish city of Istanbul, where these mediations that have been taking place. And he's also said that the two leaders, that is President Trump and President Putin, discussed Ukrainian weekend drone attacks on Russian air bases and added that Donald Trump emphasized that the US has not been informed by Ukraine about them in advance. Asked how Trump reacted to Putin's description of Ukrainian attacks, now he respondedly saying that he listened attentively to our assessments and our president spoke about in detail, and he believes that it was useful for Donald Trump to hear the assessments on Russia's part, exactly what had happened, noting that the discussion of the attacks was one of the key points in the conversation that both the presidents held. However, he did not respond to a question about the Russian response to the attacks that could be, but here is the foreign affairs advisor of Putin saying that there is a possibility exactly when it comes to the blame that they have now put on Kyiv for the civilian strikes, as they have been labeling at terror strikes. Let's get in a word from Shinjoy now. Shinjoy, both sides saying, as far as President Trump is concerned, in this recent another conversation that he had with President Putin, that there would be retaliation on Ukraine's drone attack.
President Trump and President Putin have spoken, and they have had a long conversation really about two issues. The first is Ukraine, and as you rightly said, the president, they did discuss the drone attacks on the airfields in Murmansk, in Etiyoksk, and in Amur. Now, these are deep inside Russian territory. Murmansk is north of the Arctic Circle. Amur is in Siberia, for instance. Now, President Putin has told President Trump that he has to retaliate. That's the point that President Putin has made. So you would expect a Russian attack on Ukraine, a similar kind of attack perhaps in the near future. That's one. The other issue that both sides discussed was Iran. And as far as Iran is concerned, President Trump appeared to suggest that both sides, that means he and President Putin, agree on one issue, the fact that Iran should not have nuclear weapons. Now, how that will be taken forward remains to be seen. But it appears from what President Trump has said that both Russia and America agree that Iran, Tehran should not have nuclear weapons. How that will be worked out, we don't know. What will be the formula, we don't know. But at this point, there just appears to be an agreement between these two leaders.
All right, so talks that have happened, opinions that have been exchanged about the prospects of restoring Russian-US cooperation in various spheres as well, which the two presidents view has a potential. And of course, as far as the recent drone strikes carried out by Ukraine is concerned, President Trump says that President Putin is of the opinion that Russia will retaliate. For the moment, Shinjoy, thank you very much for joining in. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of the Morning News Hour. Times Now Live coming up on the other side with the latest headlines.